Well, as long as you're happy, Ernie, that's all that really matters.
This is just awesome to have this in the gym, man. I'm excited just to have this. This is sweet.
So if you're wondering who that voice is, that is the voice of the, well, what is your exact title, Ernie?
I guess I'm the owner and operator and boxer from the Fort Morgan Gladiators boxing gym.
So we are coming to you from 77 miles northeast of Denver, Colorado on the plains. We're bringing you a guy that you may be familiar with if you're listening to this right now, and you may not if you've been listening to my podcast. But Ernie is here with us, and we're gonna basically talk about everything. So strap in.
I love it.
Hold on. Ernie loves it. I love it. And your mama loves it. So get that casserole dish, sit down, and we're going to get started here and we haven't decided what we're calling this podcast yet. So by the end of the show, we'll know.
We'll have something.
We'll have
something.
We'll have a catchphrase. It's going to be great. Oh, we can't use that one. That's Tony the Tiger. We can't use that one. Lawyers don't sue us. Back in a sec.
City of mine, how I love the city of mine.
I was born in the city, I was raised on its edges. My pop worked his life when it's complex. I found love when it's center. If I could live here forever, think it'd be for the better. I love the weather, I love the people. This is a city I met all my best friends, and I wanna thank every brick. I wanna thank every entrance to every building that I step in this city of mine.
City of mine, how I love this city of mine.
All right, welcome back to what we're currently calling the Gladiator with the Educator, but we'll come up with a better way to do that. If you're hearing in the background that delightful sound, I don't know how old that heating system is, but it's a haunted heating system, I think, at times. It turns on.
It is. I tried to turn the thing off, and it's like hardwired in there, so I couldn't unplug it.
Welcome to the Matrix.
Yes.
we got some technology here that just you can't shake it, and it's probably going to take over the world someday. So if you're wondering what Skynet looks like, it's here in Fort Morgan. Come visit. You can pick a picture of it and go home and say, I saw Skynet, and it's great. But we're not talking about Skynet today, although that would be a fun conversation.
Would be.
We're talking about Ernie, and we're talking about the gym. So, Ernie, there's a lot of history here. There is so much, but that's the beauty of your story and the story of this gym. So we've talked in person a lot about this, you and me, but not some folks might know and some folks might not. So let's start at the beginning of Ernie's life. And you were born in Pueblo, or where were you born?
Born. I would like to say raised in Pueblo, but I became a man in Fort Morgan. Yes, I was born in Pueblo in 1982 and into a boxing family. My family has been boxing. My grandfather, my mom's dad, Richard Ernest Marquez, is the one that started boxing, and he was in the military, and I want to say the 60s, the 50s and 60s, and then got out of the military in the 70s, and it was in the 60s still, in late 60s, early 70s, and they were from the south side of Pueblo in the projects. Sangre de Cristo projects is where it was at, and that's where, and there was a boys and girls club there. My grandfather was always coaching the kids with basketball, baseball, football. He was always just involved with coaching the kids. I think that's kind of where I get the passion. But he was always doing that, and when he got out of the military, there was no boxing, nothing going on over there, so he started a boxing program out of the boys and girls club. And my mom at the time was, I believe, like probably 10. She wasn't even 10, I don't think. Yeah, they were young, and I have two uncles that were. My uncle Richard was a little bit older, and they were all boxing. So they started it back then before I was ever even thought of. So it's been in the family for quite a few generations.
So Pueblo, for you, there is a moment where things turned for you, and it's a rather significant moment for you. And we've talked a little bit about that, and it starts at the age of 15 with a moment that took you in a direction that was significantly different than I think you probably were thinking of going.
A lot different. It was actually, I was 14 when we...
Okay.
Yeah, and we moved from... Well, it was a bad path all the way up. You know, when you're brought up in a environment where it's not very suitable to be raising a kid.
Yeah.
A lot of drugs, a lot of bull crap. So...
Yeah.
So being brought up in that was tough, and at 14 that we were getting in a lot of trouble and got evicted out of our apartments because of a gang fight that we had got into. My brother had got my cousin's gun at the time, and there was shooting. Well, anyways, we got evicted out of our apartments. Well, with 3 months, it was, I believe, about 3 months before that, 4 months before that, I had caught my dad, my cousin Andrew and I had caught my dad doing some drugs in the bedroom with his friend. Well,
Oh, jeez.
yeah, it was pretty wild. We beat the crap out of his friend and kind of got. And that same day, my dad took off, and we didn't know where he was at. And within that 3 months, we had got into fights, got evicted out of the apartments, and we didn't have anywhere to go. My mom with 4 kids.
Yeah.
Where are we going? And my dad came down one weekend in a U-Haul. He was up in Fort Morgan. My Aunt Jenny was up here. My Aunt Jenny and Ray, they were up here, and she moved up here with them and kind of quit the drugs, quit the booze, quit everything, and just kind of started. He had 2 jobs when we came down here, and yeah, he came up one day and was over at the Gateway Apartments, and
Okay.
he got us an apartment over there, 4-bedroom apartment. I guess he had just recently got a 1 or 2 bedroom.
Okay.
And then when he found out that we had gotten evicted and had nowhere to go, he just showed up with the U-Haul, picked us, loaded. It was weird, man. We came out here, it was just.
Right. Well,
what
and
the heck
Pueblo
is
and Fort
this?
Morgan are 2 very
Oh
different
my
towns.
goodness, yeah, it was way. That's why when we got out here, I was like, what even is like? There's
Right.
like no, there wasn't a Walmart, there wasn't
Right.
like there was no, it was nothing.
So if you're listening and you don't know Fort Morgan, and plenty of these people who are probably listening right now have come to listen to this from the link on Facebook through the Gladiator Facebook page. But for those of you who are like, wait, you didn't have a Walmart? Fort Morgan for a long time, and even still now, is very agricultural, very industrial. Our biggest employer is the meat packing plant, and that's the second one is the Leprino cheese factory.
Yeah.
The third is the school district.
Yeah.
And it just kind of goes, the levels go on down from there. And even Walmart's a recent addition in the last 10,
Yes.
15 years.
Yeah.
Well, even 10 years. I don't know when the Walmart showed up.
I can't even think, but it wasn't more than 10, 15 years, 10 years
So
or so.
this town has long been kind of just, I don't want to say like a dusty kind of backwater, because that's really unfair to the town, because the town's, I've only been here 3 years and I love it. I think it's absolutely brilliant.
I love it.
It's been my home for 3 years. I don't foresee it not being our home, but it's just been a very welcoming place. But it hasn't always been the size it has, and it hasn't always had all the things it's had. So you get from Pueblo, which even back in those days, Pueblo was a pretty good sized city.
it
Had a lot of
was-
good, lot
I
of.
believe over 100,000 was
Yeah.
the population,
Yeah.
and then
And
we
you
get
come
down
to a
here, it's
town.
like 10,000 or something. It was like, yeah, it was crazy.
You're
It
like,
was
this-
wild.
Wait,
yeah.
what?
Yeah, we walked like from the Gateway Apartments to the Riverside Apartment to
Yeah.
the Riverside Park, and they
Yeah.
said, "That's town." I'm
Yeah.
like, "You got to be kidding me!"
And it hasn't really changed that
Yeah,
much. That's
it's
the extent
wild.
of town. Like you can drive from one end of Fort Morgan to the other in about 5 to 7 minutes, depending on
not
construction.
even that. I don't think. Yeah, if you don't catch the lights, you're 2-3 minutes. You can make it. It's
So if you're wondering how small Fort Morgan is, Fort Morgan's small enough that it's small enough to be small. And
yes,
sometimes it's the best part about the city, and other times it's the
yes,
struggle
that's,
bus.
That's tough.
So you come from a big city and you come to a small town.
Yeah, and when we got here, we started school. My brother Steve and I, because he's 2 years old, 2.5 years older than me, and then my younger brother's about 2.5 years younger than me. Then we have a sister that's 8 years younger than me. So
Yeah.
we come over here. My brother Steve and I are a little bit older. I'm 14. My brother Steve, I believe, is 16 at the time, and we're like, what is
Yeah,
this?
what are we doing
Yeah,
here?
what are we doing here? What is this? I mean, it was fun for a little while, but it didn't take long for us to start getting into trouble, fighting, and
right.
we just come from a place where you don't take no crap from anybody.
Yeah.
And on this, you come to this, we're kind of a little. I guess we were too much for the town, and we kind of started. It didn't take long before we were fighting and getting in
Yeah.
not a lot of trouble, but you
Right.
know,
You were known.
we were known. Yes, we were known. It didn't take long to to be known, but we weren't here very long. And I get I go back to Pueblo.
Yeah.
I moved back because I just couldn't take this.
Right.
My brother Steve and I both moved back, and
Okay.
I'm 14 at the time, and then my wife, the girlfriend then at the time,
Yeah.
ends up pregnant. She kind of calls me one day. I'm like 3-4 months pregnant, and
Yeah.
I'm like, wow. I'm 14 at the time.
Right.
That was pretty intense, but
Yeah.
I did get a job. I did like start working
Right.
during the summer and started kind of doing what I can. I was staying in my Uncle Abram's garage in
Oh,
Pueblo.
geez.
Yeah, well, he kind of let me rent it, and I was
Okay.
converted it into a room, and I kind of had my girlfriend and the baby there after the baby
Yeah.
was born. She was, man, that's wild to think. I was 15 and 3 months when she was born, and I remember, man, it was just like yesterday. It was amazing. I even cut the umbilical cord. I was like right there. It was
Yeah.
But that after that when it was about 5 months after that, we had to convince my wife's mom to
Yeah.
sign temporary parental custody over to my parents.
okay.
Well, we were kids, man.
Right.
So,
You're not. Oh, geez, that is a little bit. That's a hot mess.
yeah. So she, my amazing, beautiful mother-in-law, signed temporary parental custody
Jeez.
of my wife at 15 over to my parents.
Oh my gosh.
So that she can move down here. And it was at the time, I believe it was in November. So my daughter was like 4 or 5 months at the
Yeah.
time. So we were able to come over here, and from
Wow.
then, yeah, it was wild. That was some life-changing stuff. And I admire my wife so much for the strength. I mean, she
Yeah.
literally came with no family. All she had was like me.
Yeah.
My mom and my family are me. I'm just so grateful. But it's just the strength that it took
Right.
for my wife, thinking at 15 years old, moving
Right.
away from your family, being
Well, not
with,
just the strength, but trust.
Oh, my
Like
goodness.
trusting that this
Well,
is going to be okay. I'm
and
going
then-
to a place I've never been, and I'm so young, and so the world is so big, and
It
I'm
was
so small in this.
it was
Yeah.
it's just that she trusted me that way. I'm just, like I said, I'm so grateful and I'm thankful that she put up with some of the stupid things that I did when I was younger, when when we first moved here, just not knowing. I was just straight from Pueblo, not knowing any different.
Right.
So I'm just thankful, and she's the most amazing woman in the world.
So to kind of encapsulate that journey, I'm guessing it wasn't easy when you have a kid at 15. Like, it's not just like everything happens and it's like sunshine and rainbows. Kind of walk me through how hard you had to work through
Well-
that process to kind of, because I imagine takes work. Like, it's not just
oh
like,
my goodness, it was, well, like I said, I'm just thankful that my family, my mom and my
Yeah.
dad were supportive, because
Yeah.
they took us in, and my dad worked at Gibson's, which it was Mr. D's, which
Oh,
just
okay.
closed down
Yeah.
at that same building there. It was like a Gibson's, a shop, you know what Gibson's is, and
Yeah.
what it was my dad would do the floors, so they would lock him in there, and he would
Yeah.
sweep mop. My brother Steve, him and I, he would get us in there, and we'd do the floors, and
Okay.
and then he'd let us take naps on the beds in there, because what we'd have to get done there, they'd
Right.
let us out, and then we'd have to go home, get ready, and then go to
During
school.
school, yeah.
So we did that for a while, and then during the summer of after 10th grade,
Yeah.
I was 16, and my wife was going to get on birth control at the
Yeah.
time. We were both going to the school, so I went
Yeah.
to school in the morning. My mom took my wife to go get on birth control, and
Yeah.
after school, I come running up to the van, and my wife's in the passenger seat bawling her eyes out, and
Yeah.
I'm just going, "What's wrong? You know what's going on?" She's like, "I'm pregnant." And
Oh.
yeah, that was intense. I was only 15 at the time.
Yeah.
But man, I was just super stoked. I was like,
Right.
which was crazy to me to think that I had that mentality of like, all right, I'm gonna have
Yeah.
another kid, excited, instead of like, oh dang, what are we gonna do,
Well, and to kind of back it up a second, we talked about this here at the gym about the rationale behind that.
Yeah.
And why that so kind of walk me through kind of, at the time you didn't know that was happening. Like, you were not conscious of why
No.
you were so excited, and why that passion was such a big deal for you, and why you were such like, okay, we're going to make this work. I'm so excited. Yay. I'm going to do this. But later in life, you sat back and
I
went,
realized, yeah.
what did you realize? Kind of walk us through that.
Well, I would think what I realized more is my dad, being younger, my dad being an alcoholic, being
Yeah.
physically abusive with my mother, being, on, drugs, doing coke and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So he wasn't around a lot, and that was one thing that I yearned for
Yeah.
more than anything was my dad. Every time my dad would come around, I'd be excited about
Yeah.
that. And there was times where, when he'd come around, he was not really conscious himself, because he was
Yeah.
blackout drunk, and I'm just wanting to be by him all the
Right.
time, and kind of the neglect that I got from that kind of
Yeah.
made me yearn for him even more and want a dad more. So I knew once I had kids, I promised myself
Yeah.
that I would never, my kids are always going to know dad's going to be around. And
Yeah.
it was crazy to, like, because back then that was,
Right.
I knew that once I had a kid, I never wanted my kid to ever feel I guess the neglect or the,
Yeah.
whatever you'd call, I don't know, man. It
Yeah.
was, when you have parents that are young parents up to no good, when they're, they're not.
Well, and you wanted to do it right. You wanted
yeah.
you wanted to be, and this happens. This is a dynamic even like in my family and other families, where you look at someone in your family or a relative and you're like, I don't want to be like that, and you
Yeah.
fight like tooth and nail to not even drift into that territory.
That's kind of,
And sometimes you don't know you're doing it,
yeah.
and then you look up and you go, oh damn, that's what I did.
I'm sure that's kind of exactly what it was. I think my brother Steve, he still to this day does not drink, because my dad, when we were
Really?
kids, is an alcoholic. Yeah, He's never drank. He's never
Interesting.
smoked. He's never done.
Wow.
And I think that was one of the things I do not want to be like that. And that was
Right.
kind of my idea I just loved I wanted my kids to know that I love them.
Right.
And it was, I don't know, man, it's unbelievable thinking back,
Yeah.
like how fast it went, man.
Well, and so taking a step from back then to 2021, how many kids do you have now?
We have 4 kids,
Okay.
four daughters. Well, at 15 we had her one. Then at 16 we were 15 when we got pregnant
Yeah.
again, and had another at 16,
Yeah.
which is Alizé, my second daughter. And then we moved out at that time. At 16, I was working, and during the summer I was working for a guy named Dave Cornwell as
Okay.
energy specialist is the business. And man, they're just amazing. I'm so thankful for that.
Yeah.
That crew, Dave Cornwell, Anita Cornwell, they're amazing people. Gordon Ledford, Gary Vondi, them are some of the people that were like very, very inspirational to me when I worked over here, because I was working with them that summer. And then I found out that, July, my daughter's born in July 10th.
Right.
School time comes back around, and I talked to the boss, and I'm like, hey man, I have 2 kids. I'm 16 with 2 kids. I'm probably not going to go back to school.
Yeah.
Would you be able to keep me hired on? And he kept me hired on, and I ended up working with him for, man, I think it was 14 years maybe.
Wow.
Yeah, it was from 98 to 2014.
That is
So,
a long time.
That is a long time, man. And they yeah. Well, that's why I said I'm thankful for them, because
Right.
like when I first started working for them, to me, like coming from where I came from,
Yeah.
that was a group of rich white guys.
Yeah.
that's what it was, because I
Right.
didn't know anybody, and it wasn't like they had money. It's just, we'd go to school, they're talking about going on their 4-wheelers, or
Right.
they're going to go to the mountains this weekend. They're going to go, they're just
Right.
doing simple stuff.
Yeah.
To me, where I'm from, I'm like, man, that's what rich people do, man.
Right.
Rich people get to do that. So,
Right.
but after working with them for so long, I realized that it wasn't rich. They just worked for what they had. They
Yeah.
were a working class group of people,
Yeah.
great people with great morals. They showed me a completely different way of living, just
Yeah.
a completely different way of living. I was so used to like for instance, when we came working over here, when we first moved over here,
Yeah.
we would wonder where my dad was, because he had 2 jobs, and
Oh,
we're
okay.
used to Dad being home just all the time when we were in Pueblo.
Yeah.
Dad was either, if he's not home, he's out drinking,
Yeah.
or whatever, until he quit drinking. But it was always that, and he was always gone. We're like, Dad, where's Dad? Where's Dad? Mom,
Yeah.
where's Dad? And he's at work. And now works that much, like, well,
Right.
you know what I mean? Because we didn't know. We
Yeah.
figured we just, what we knew of is money comes first of the month. Everybody at the mailbox, all the kids at the mailbox waiting
Yep.
for the mailbox to come in for the
Yeah.
check, and that was kind of what we knew. So coming over here, my dad just constantly working for the income. We didn't know how that even was. It was
Yeah.
kind of like, so when we started working with him and realizing what it took and kind of what
Yeah.
it takes, at cleaning the floors and
Right.
stuff.
Not easy work.
Oh no, not at all. Not at all.
I was a janitor once back in
Yeah.
the day.
Oh, not at all.
It is not. I mean, it's good money.
Yeah.
It is not glorious.
It's just my dad. My dad grinds, man.
Yeah.
I was just, we were surprised, like holy crap, what the heck? Dad doesn't
Yeah.
rest. Like
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It was
Doesn't
like
take his breaks.
Yeah,
He
it's
just keeps plowing and plowing
he
and
just
working and
keeps
working.
going. I'm like, how in the heck does? I mean, before we'd never seen him work, so we didn't
Yeah.
know anything. So it was pretty. He showed us a different way. He showed us that we have to work if we
Yeah.
want something.
Yeah.
You need to work.
Yeah,
for
it's not going to be handed to you.
It's not going to be handed.
It's
to
not
you.
how the world works. And even now in 2021, the world's not going to do that
No,
either.
no,
Like
not at all.
You try to
Not-
be like, give me. It's like, well, okay, can you work for it? And
Yeah.
maybe if you do, then you might get somewhere.
That's one of the things I'm thankful that I picked up the work ethic. And from 16, when I started working with Cornwell, we were doing 50 to 60 hour weeks, like
Yeah.
for 14 years, 12,
Yeah.
13, 14 years, working side by side with guys that were, I was 16 when I started working. I believe Gary Vondi was the next youngest, and he was like 42 or something.
Jeez.
Yeah, so it was like I was working with all men, and I was the only kid. So
Right.
they helped me to realize a lot about life,
Nice.
lot about life. So I'm very grateful and thankful that.
Well, and I think it helps that you've had they talk about everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
And there's a lot, and I believe in it. I also believe sometimes it can come off a little corny because if someone's like down in the dumps and they just got some horrible news, and you're like, everything happens for a reason, they're gonna punch you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you just don't
Exactly.
do that to somebody. But being able to reflect back on that and look back at the journey, like these things happen for a purpose. Like you got to see what good hard work looks like. You got to be I don't want to say raised, but you got to be instilled in with values by these guys who cared to work with you and cared enough to not determine your value based upon like what they saw, but what that they knew you could do and what you could be. And to kind of shift into the next piece of this conversation, I think that starts with Gladiators and how and where it started and where it's going. So I guess the next part of your story that I think we can kind of touch on is this building was not the first Gladiator gym.
No.
Where did Gladiator start? And it didn't start with you, because it started with somebody else.
It was my parents. My parents are the ones that started it. They were when we moved over here, because we first started, my brother Steve, my cousins, and my two brothers, my cousins, and I, us kids. When we started boxing in 1990, it was Chris Archuleta, who was a guy that had trained a fighter that my grandpa had trained.
Oh, okay.
My grandpa passed away in 1989, and Chris was there at the hospital, told him that he was going to train his grandkids. And at that time, 1990, I believe my mom was 24, 20. My dad, they were young, and they were up to no good. They were not, I wouldn't say they were head the right direction. They didn't know any different, so they were not doing what they could. Well, Chris was there, picked us up every single day and started training us, and so that was our first coach.
Okay.
So from 1990 to 96, when we moved over here, that's who we were training with, and when we moved here, there was no gym at all.
Okay.
So we were kind of like, and I was just coming back from a tournament in California, a regional tournament. I'm kind of, my dad said, well, he was training us a little bit at the house, at the apartment, and then he talked with the city over here at the Armory and kind of got us in at the Armory. And in 1998, he kind of got us in at the Armory over there. And started training us, and man, it was amazing when we first started. We would have 50 kids there a night, and it was, and not all of them were really wanting to work out, and a lot of them, they kind of like they do. You see them here, they want to do it until they get punched in the face and realize maybe that's not, So we had quite a bit of that, but for the most part, we would have kids around the gym, and we were okay with it, as long as they weren't distracting the kids working. It was kind of giving the kids somewhere to go and something to...
A place to be.
A place to be that was somewhat, it was safe. They might get punched in the face, but it was safe. But the 1 year, I think it was 99, the Parks and Rec director changed hands and told my dad, we're sorry, but you can have the gym for 1 hour a day for 2 days a week or something like that. Oof. Yeah, and my dad was like, well, these kids need way more time than that to train. So they moved the gym over to my dad's basement, my mom and dad's basement.
Okay.
So we were training out of their basement and partially in their garage, kind of making it work. Well, we had a few of the competitive kids that were training and just continued keeping it going. And then they moved a couple different places, but whenever they would move, the gym would move with them, and we'd be in their garage. And when they moved on Grant Street in 2007 or 8, man, that was nice. It was like a double car garage. And we converted that.
And there's not a lot of those in Fort Morgan.
No,
there are a lot of single car garages.
Yes, it was nice. We converted that though, and we had a strong team at that time. We were taking guys all over the country boxing, taking the kids to Nevada, California, Cincinnati, all over the place to box. And that was when it really kind of took off. And my daughters they seen Dad. They were always at practice with Dad, and they finally, my two oldest ones, decided that they wanted to box. Yeah, that was all fun, man. Good times.
So the gym was the gym was living in their house and their garages for a while. At what point did it transition into an actual gym building?
That was in 2013. I got partnered up with a lady that was she was selling some diet product, and she was in business, and she said she knew what I was doing, and I was kind of doing a little fitness program for people that she was working with for free at the park. Yeah. And she started talking that she needed a building, and that she was she's going to get this building if I wanted to do classes at the gym or turn it into a gym, convert it into a gym, and I'd pay 25%, she'd pay 75%, and to me that didn't sound right. So I said, let's go 50-50 and we'll make it happen. So we went to Brush and did that. Well, eventually, it didn't take a couple months. She kind of bailed out on me and left me kind of by myself there, and that put me in the hole big time, man. And doing that and not being business sensed or having a sense of business at all, it was kind of in trying to run the gym the way my mom and dad did without charging anybody, because they've never charged any kid. The whole time that they operated the gym, they did not charge a kid a dime. Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. It blows my mind. And I was kind of trying to operate on that same...
Right. When you got to pay the rent bills, you can't really do it all for free.
When you have overhead, it's kind of, you have to at least make that. And so I went into debt quite a bit, got behind on a lot of bills, and had to close down for in 2014. Yeah. And there was still kids that were training, so I moved them over to my house, and we were kind of training out of I have a little small shed and in the yard. So we continued to keep it going until 2016. I met with Jody and Jody Walker
Yeah.
with Kids at Their Best.
Yeah.
And I was on her board of directors, and she found this building and the office next door and asked
Yeah.
if I'm interested. I came in here, and I was in debt at the time, and I
Yeah.
was getting, and it was like, she said, do you want this? I came in here and said, yes.
Yeah.
I just automatically, yes. I didn't even talk with my wife, and I get home and get in trouble with my wife.
Of course.
And yeah. But the passion's there, man. It's just, and I wasn't going to allow it to stop. It helps too many. And one of the things that I realized is, even when we weren't operating,
Yeah.
the kids were still reaching out to the coaches, to myself, to my mom, to my dad. They were still reaching out, like, hey, how's it going? Keeping in touch and doing stuff, just 'cause that's they felt comfortable with us. They felt like they felt good. And
They had a place.
Exactly.
And they had people. And in this town, it feels like there's a need for that. And especially, I mean, guys and girls. Like we have some really cool, awesome, legit ladies who, like Sundays, you guys have a ladies defense class you run. There's a good number of girls who are involved in our kids class, and there's a good number of young ladies involved in our Hibbett class, and also in our, I think maybe one or two of like have tried the professional thing.
Yeah.
And there's also like MMA, there's like jiu-jitsu, there's a lot of different opportunities. And the number of women who are starting to who have continued to come back
amazing.
and to be involved, like it's not just for guys. And I think what I want to kind of touch on briefly is there is a need for this kind of place for our men.
Yes.
And what kind of talk about the importance of like being able to process, because you've had your share of boxers over the years, and even recently we've had a couple things where it was like, well, this is why this place exists. Why is it important that a place like Gladiators be a part of the community? Why is that? And you can speak to the guys or to the girls, but why is it important that this kind of place exists for them?
I think more so the self-confidence that they get here and the support.
Yeah.
You come here, a lot of them walk in with not a lot of confidence. They almost intimidated, looking at everybody pounding on the bags and sparring with each other. It's a little intimidating, and they come in here and kind of, once they want to do it, they really want to do it. And then the first time that they try it, it's kind of like it's inviting. We have people here that are supportive. It's kind of like, and then once they do that, they start realizing I can. When they question themselves, then they realize they can do it.
Yeah.
Like the confidence that it takes from them, it's just that they take away from it. It's so empowering to them. And when you empower the individual and show them, team sports are fun, and I love team sports. But a sport like this is like you're by yourself in there. You are the individual.
Right.
It is you and nobody else. You have nobody to look out for you, nobody to
back you up.
Nobody to back you up when you're in that ring. Once that bell rings, it is you.
Yeah.
And I kind of use that as an analogy to life, and I watch it. I watch it over and over. These kids, even adults, they're little. They don't have the confidence. They don't feel good about themselves. When they realize that they do this and they can do it, I watch it outside of the gym. They're unafraid to take on challenges. Yeah. Unafraid to, anything. They're nicer. They feel better about themselves. And I just think the support and everything that we have here, what it does for the people. And I invite everybody to come in, even just to check it out, man. It's like I said, it's life-changing for a lot of people. It's a life-changing experience. You step in here and realize.
Yeah. Well, and talk about the growth of our wrestling program, and like that has kind of walk us through both that, and also we've got kind of a burgeoning, kind of a growing boxing, like kids and adult boxing group.
Goodness.
So kind of talk about how the growth of the kids wrestling program, but also the growth of our adult competitors.
Well, last year I was almost going into dang depression, worried about having
COVID
to close down. Yeah. So it was tough, and that even now I'm still catching back up from trying to just keeping the gym open without anything coming in. No income coming in. So I'm scrounging, but we were able to keep it open and keep it going. And I'm thankful that we did, because now that things are starting to open back up. Before the wrestling was opened up, we were having a lot more young kids that were wrestlers coming to boxing practice. Yeah. Well, we had one family, the Ewing family, Callie and Siobhan Ewing, with the two kids, Aiden and Aaron. Every day, almost every day after practice, they were on the mat rolling around wrestling. Right. And they were like, "Is it okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, just go in the cage. We'll kind of just so nobody's stepping on you. Kind of give them a little place to roll around." And it was like every day that they'd come train, they were wanting to go in there, and they. they mentioned to me that they had a tournament coming up, but nowhere to train or nowhere to practice wrestling. And I
Right.
mentioned to them, you know, I showed them around and I showed them how we can kind of pick up some of the bags and move
Yeah.
them off of the mats.
Yeah.
And I explained to them, you know, if this is sufficient space, you guys are more than welcome to run, like
Yeah.
to practice as much as you'd like, you know,
Yeah.
with whoever you'd like. It's just I don't know a dang thing about wrestling. I'm
Right.
like, that's completely out of my element.
You're a hands-on kind of guy.
Yes.
Your two hands, you can do that.
Yes.
When it comes to wrestling, it's your whole body, and that is
Yeah.
it's a whole entire.
it's a whole different operation, and
Yeah.
so I mentioned to them, you know, if you guys want to do that, well, they were doing that, training for a while, and
Mm-hmm.
one of our competitors, an MMA fighter, Chris Sturgeon, was
Yeah.
he was a wrestler in high school, and he's a blue belt in jiu-jitsu,
Yeah.
and a huge benefit to our gym, but
Right.
he was started rolling with them, kind of showing them different
Mm-hmm.
techniques, different moves. And then we get a few more kids that want to come in and wrestle. And then before you know it, I told them, you know, if you guys would like, we can set a day specific for wrestling. You know, just
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
one day that you come in and just
Yeah.
we'll clear the mats off, get everybody out of here, and let you guys have at
Yeah.
it for wrestling. And they were like, you know, they're super excited. I'm like, yeah, I mean, heck, I'm
Right.
I'm okay with it. You know,
Right.
I'm just give the kids something to do. Let them get out and get back a little bit of normalcy of somewhat. You know, what I mean,
Right.
somewhat. So we started with that, and my goodness, it's been amazing.
Well, and we've had kids who've gone to compete.
Yes.
And they've come back with medals. They've come back with standings, and they're competing. My understanding, I think they're competing under the name of Gladiator Wrestling.
Yeah, we
So-
actually started Kelly Ewing and Siobhan and Chris. I told them, if you guys want to start a program out of here, because I don't know any of the sanctioning fees,
Yeah.
how any of where the
Right.
certifications come in, or what
Yeah.
it takes to be able to do that. And I
Yeah.
mentioned to them if they wanted to, I love that. I love
Yeah.
more than anything giving the kids a place to come and
Right.
do what they love. So I'm like, just know I don't know anything about this, but
Yeah.
you guys,
Yeah.
we have the space and the support, and and it's kind of taken off. Like,
No, it's incredible. So I walk in here on the wrestling nights, and first of all, I walk out in the parking lot, and it's just packed, and I'm like, what did I miss? And then I walk in and I go, oh, wrestling.
Yeah.
And it is just the number, and the kids of varying ages. Like, there are
Oh, my
kids
goodness.
from like 4 or 5 to upwards of 12, 13, and they want to learn how to wrestle. The cool thing about what happens here is they can operate, I think, up till Pee-wee. But the beautiful thing is they can get all that experience, and like Sturgeon is an amazing coach. Ewings are amazing in their support and how they can help kids learn. And if a kid can stay with it, and they can wrestle in middle school as well. But if they use this program as well, the opportunities for them in high school when they actually start doing that, like grown up. I don't want to say grown up because that's not. But the larger, older kids wrestling. They will have gotten so much more experience and be
goodness,
so much better for it that they can represent our community, and really, really, really do a great job and bring home some serious medals and some serious recognition to Fort Morgan. But it starts here. It starts in this building and at the middle school where they need to have a place. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but there are very specific kids who wrestle, and there's very specific kids who are interested in wrestling. And I think when you were talking earlier about when kids come in here for boxing and they start to get that self-confidence, the wrestling is the same story.
Oh, yes.
When they start to win or they start to succeed or start to find oh my gosh, I actually like this. This is actually good. Like, oh my, what? Oh, right, yes. And the passion that it ignites.
I love seeing that.
And it's almost like a light bulb goes on in their head, and you're like, this is what you've been waiting for. Like, certain kids like certain things. There's certain theater kids. There's sports kids. But wrestling is a whole other operation into itself because it's not team. It is team based, but you're on your own on that
when
mat.
you're out there on the mat, same as the boxing.
Boxing,
it's
yeah,
individual.
it's you. And I think through that, there's a lot of great confidence building, self confidence, but also self image. Like, you know what? Yeah, and some of the kids, a couple of our kids who've gone to competitions and they've lost, they react emotionally, and their emotions aren't
what
wrong.
kids know.
But they lose, and they don't like to lose. No one likes to lose, but they learn over time that okay. And the cool thing is then the next weekend when they do the competition, they're coming home with medals. It's that loss last week sucked, but guess what? You got a first place thing that you're bringing home to the Gladiator gym
That's
tomorrow.
freaking
That's
awesome.
legit. So I think to that point, it's kind of that you talked about how your grandfather was a part of the Boys and Girls Club in Pueblo and was a huge part of bringing boxing into that. And I feel like the possibilities from Fort Morgan with that kind of an idea as COVID starts to open us back up again, the possibilities of this gym serving as a way station for kids from one end of the age spectrum to the other. And we've had plenty of adults come in here and be a part of the HIBIT class, and it's been like incredible to see their confidence grow. I mean, Kelly has lost weight. Like he's working it, and dude's going to compete in Vegas apparently. Like he came in, and I came in, I knew him because I taught his son.
Aaron, you are down like 30 pounds.
I don't know if I'm down 30.
Yes,
we'll measure we'll do some weight and see what happens.
The weight that you've lost, though, I mean, I see it from
and
everybody.
like the health has helped. Like
Yes.
that being
Big
healthy,
time.
and like I don't get winded when I walk up the stairs anymore. Like
Yeah.
the workouts, they kill me, but they're not as punishing. They're still punishing. Please don't take that as like you should really put the screws to me.
Just step it up.
Yeah, that's it. I've done it now. I gotta quit. I can't do it. He's gonna kill me. So like, but that piece is it is that self-image. It is that strength. Like I know that I'm good enough and that I'm strong enough, and even Kelly, who swore he wasn't going to compete, is now going to, and is possibly going
That
to
is
try and do it
amazing.
again. And it's when you look at that and you go, a grown man who has said,
awesome.
you know what? Yeah, I can do this. I can, and contemplating maybe wrestling in the future. Like, and that his story is not just, his rule is, his story is the rule in this building. It's not the exception. You have kids who come in here like Brianna, who has just come an incredible amount of distance in her boxing and all that kind of stuff. And just like the victory she scored and
That
the
was
work she's done.
amazing.
And between her and Aaron and other kids who have been in this program, that is the power
That's
of the Gladiator
amazing.
Gym and a program like that. And I think for you, that's kind of your, I don't know if it's your charge or if it's your kind of your, like the reason why you keep doing what you're doing, but
I mean, the passion, what I see is what these kids take from it, and learning a little bit about trauma and how trauma affects kids, and how something like this can help them overcome the trauma, help them realize themselves, help them understand themselves, help them realize they have everything it takes to overcome anything. That's powerful.
Well, and in education, we talk a lot about how trauma can affect learning. And trauma is complicated. And
it's super complicated.
It's similar to grief. Grief is a monster.
Yes.
Trauma is a monster. And you can predict a little bit of it, but a lot of times it's unpredictable. And I think, well, I don't think, I know working in this gym for a lot of our kids and adults is, I guess you could call it therapy, because
that's fair.
it allows them to be able to kind of punch it out and to do it in a way that's not going to get them in trouble, arrested, and or expelled. Like, and we've had our share of kids who've gotten into tussles at school and have been brought in here and be like, okay, hey, this is the place you can do that. Let's train your heart to express yourself in a better fashion. And there's plenty of kids, I think, who are still out there and who could use this place in a positive way.
I love it.
And that's my hope is that the Gladiator Gym continues to be that. I'm trying to think what other questions I might have for you, but your ladies class is going to start up in half an hour.
I see that.
Is it 4 o'clock they start up?
4 o'clock. But I think Siobhan just let me know that we may not have the.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we're good to go. And I see somebody that just walked in right now. That is
Oh my gosh!
Huge.
We should put him on a microphone. Like totally, yeah.
Come on, Chris.
Come on, Chris. It's good for you. It's right there. That one right there. One, two, that one.
Hello.
There we
you go.
go. All right, we got it. You got pulled in. You can scoot a little closer to the mic too, if you want. So, Chris, we were talking about, me and Ernie were just kind of spitballing about how this gym has made a difference in people's lives, both kid-wise and adult-wise. Talk about how you got to be here, because I don't know your story. I know this one's because he's told me it like 15 million times. I'm finally recording it today so I can put it on record. But
Absolutely.
Yours is a mystery to me, so I am going to be listening excitingly to hear this. But how did you come to be a part of the Ernie Gladiator world, and where has it taken you?
Yeah, so I started out my martial arts journey over at Garcia Sports. I lived in Sterling, Colorado for a while. Was just looking for something to do. I wrestled in high school, so it was familiar to me. And I went to Paul Garcia's gym. He was, my first MMA jiu-jitsu coach. And I walked in and I said, "Hey, I want to learn how to box." And he looked me in the face and he was like, you're not a very good boxer. How about you try jujitsu? And I was like, okay, I'll try it out.
The truth hurts.
That's good.
So I'll try it out. And so I ended up trying jujitsu a couple classes, and I ended up falling in love with it. So here we are, a few months later, I'm doing jujitsu tournaments. I'm going to tournaments. I'm getting medals. I'm loving it. Finally getting to be a part of the scene. And about a year and a half in, I want to fight.
Yeah.
I want to get in an MMA fight. So finally the whole gym's getting restless. We're all asking for fights. Finally, he's like, whatever. It gets us on Legion Combat Sports Promotion.
Okay.
So I take my first MMA fight, and I did really well. It was unanimous decision. I think I scored about 6 knockdowns.
So for those who are going to be listening to this podcast, and for me, because I have no idea what the heck that means, what does that like? What does that look like? How does that score look like?
Unanimous decision. I won all 3 rounds.
Okay. And then 6 knockdowns means you knocked him down 6 times.
Yeah.
Oh dang.
Yeah, like overhand. But I was still a terrible boxer, so it was just swinging for the fences. I mean, landing.
I mean, there is technique in MMA, but it also is just beat him up.
Right.
There's your tagline for the
that's
MMA
good.
company. Just beat him up.
Absolutely.
So continue. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
Continue.
So now I come in with a head of steam. I get my second fight in Colorado. Actually, I'm favored to win 49-1. Something ridiculous.
Of course.
We get in the first round. I drop my left hand and I go down. Knocked out in the first round. And I took that on the chin. I took that personally.
Yeah.
So I stopped going to the gym for a couple of weeks at Garcia's. I was embarrassed, you know. I'd spent all this time training.
Well, your pride got checked.
Oh, absolutely.
That's crushing.
And then COVID hit.
Oh.
So 2 weeks off ended up being 6 months off, and finally we moved out to Wiggins because I wanted to be closer to school.
Yeah.
And I needed something to do. I was getting a little heavy around the midsection. I was lazy. I think I was eating more ice cream than I was doing anything else. And
You were doing curls with the ice cream container.
Absolutely, yeah. 6-ounce curls, 12-ounce curls, and
Oh, that's my favorite.
Pint, So finally we get in here. I think the gym opened up right before I started coming back.
Yeah, it wasn't long.
Back into it. I remember Paul Garcia had told me about, Gladiators, how we were always welcome up here. So I reached out on Facebook and asked, can I come in and get some work in? You know, I think I paid my first month and then waited another month to come in because I was just, COVID brain. I was lazy. Didn't want to commit to the workout yet. Finally came in and just the atmosphere and the energy and the people, warm and inviting. Usually go to the gyms and everybody stares you down. New guy,
Right.
fresh
Measuring
meat.
you up.
Yeah,
be like,
exactly.
all right, how are we going to haze this boy? What are we going to do?
Exactly. And it wasn't like that. Well, not exactly. I think I threw up every practice at the end for like the first week.
That seems to be a tradition here.
Yeah,
at Gladiator
absolutely.
Sometimes.
Hard work.
So one night, I don't. I'll come back to you in a second.
Absolutely.
But one night, I can't remember. It was like a month ago. I'm walking out, and it's been a rough one. Like it was a rough workout. I was just like, I'm gonna go home, and I get around there's a tractor trailer out here, and I hear this and I don't even know who it was. But I just stood there at my car going, I feel like I should say, are you okay, buddy? But I didn't. I was like, that would be weird. But it was like, and I know there are kids who have watched
All
them go
the
out that
time.
door, and it's just like, oh, they're gonna go up, Chuck.
The trash can out of the door. That's what we tell them. The trash can out of the door.
So your workout, you threw up. It was fun.
Yeah.
It was great.
Right. Yeah, but it was something I was familiar with. I was just
Right. So, but what happened? So you came back, and I mean, that's not the end of your story.
No,
you still got a lot of adventures you had.
We got about 5-6 months left to tell. So we come back, and I want to get back into it immediately. I'm excited. There's nothing going on. Actually, I came back because I was scheduled for a fight at the same promotion that I first fought at in November. And that was kind of up in the air. They didn't have approval from the state yet.
Right.
They were just kind of spitballing, we're going to get this going potentially November 29th, I think it was. So I was training for that. I was trying to get ready for that. And looking back, I'm glad that didn't pan out.
Right.
We're training for that. That ends up falling through, but I still want to fight. So, At this point, we're a couple months in. I'm officially hooked.
Yeah.
I want to be a part of the gym.
Yeah.
And then we have, we get more kids showing up. I'm starting to become a bigger part of the gym. I'm starting to help out with classes.
Yeah.
Showing up to kids' classes, and we have this kid who's in the corner wrestling, and what was it? Kelly and Shaban. They're like, "Oh, we hear you wrestle. Don't know how." We hear you wrestle. Are you used to wrestle? Would you mind helping out Aaron a couple days a week with just some wrestling technique? You know what? I'm here all the time. We'll pull him aside for a few minutes. I'll show him a couple things. And the one kid turned into, okay, we've got a couple more kids coming, and two went to 4, and 4 6, and all of a sudden we've got a program. Which is great.
That was awesome.
Absolutely. And then we get that started, and then we've got a jiu-jitsu program. People want to try that out, and then we've got a jiu-jitsu coach. And then we didn't have a jiu-jitsu coach. Good for him. He moved back home closer to his family. I'm very happy. I'm very happy to still have him as part of the Gladiator family. We've got Coach Red, who comes down about once a week, and then we've got Coach Duvall, which a black belt was something I'd been lacking for a really long time. But fast forward, we're here. We've got this bustling wrestling program now. We've got a jiu-jitsu program. We're Fort Morgan Gladiator boxing, but we're a full-on martial arts gym, and to do about everything. I think. And stick around a couple months, we might start a softball team or something.
Well, it is spring into summer. The possibility is it will happen.
Bringing Chris on, though, he brought in an element that I don't have. He brought in the whole ground game. He's a blue belt in jiu-jitsu.
Yes, sir.
He's leveled up. Who did you level up through on your belting system?
Rigan Machado was the black belt we went through, and then Ernie Cisneros was my coach.
So Eddie Cisneros.
Or Eddie Cisneros, yeah.
Walk us through a blue belt. What is that? What does it take to get there? I'm guessing it doesn't happen easy.
No.
Typically, so people are at the white belt level. Actually, I belted up after, I want to say 9 months.
Okay.
Just because of my wrestling background. And once I got there, it was, I was winning tournaments. I was doing well.
Nice.
First place. And then I got to blue belt, and it was kind of a culture shock because you're starting to figure it out there.
Right.
Or you think you're figuring it out, but really you still don't know anything.
Yeah.
But the competition's a little bit tougher. You have more of a. At white belt, I could typically use my wrestling and spaz myself into a win.
Yeah.
And blue belt, it's more. There's more technique to it. You have to at least.
A lot more technical.
Yeah, you have to at least somewhat know what you're doing.
Okay.
There's a lot of capitalizing on others' mistakes.
Okay.
I think that's, for the most part, is
okay.
where it comes from. But typically, in a traditional program, it's about, I think they say 2 to 3 years to get to that blue belt level. And then another 2 to 3 years for purple belt.
Yeah.
And another 5 years for brown belt.
Right.
And after about 10 to 15 years, people get their black belts. And that's...
A lot of hours on the mat.
A lot of hours.
Yeah.
A lot of hours on the mat.
Absolutely.
But it does pay off eventually because you get those levels, and it is about getting the levels, obviously, but getting the experience. Like learning, okay, I'm doing this right, or I'm not doing this right, or oh my gosh, this is a new thing I didn't know about. I suspect that that's a huge driving force.
It's mind-blowing watching these guys. I mean, before watching guys wrestle, it was just kind of 2 guys rolling around on the ground. I never noticed a whole lot of technique.
Yeah.
When we brought in John Duvall over here to train with us, and he's probably a 150, 160-pound guy.
Yeah.
And he come in here as a black belt, and I see him rolling with our guys, and you can see a huge difference. Like before, it was just I didn't know who was getting over on who or who was doing better. But he come in here, and he's like a little snake, just... well, I'm not kidding you, just wrapping these guys up and just twisting them up, and then you see them tap, and then they let go. And these are guys that double him in size, and it's impressive as heck. And then even watching like Chris go with some of the newer guys, you can see the skill level, the technique, and everything that comes along with it. There's levels to this, and if you're not ready for it, you can get your butt handed to you.
Yeah, you're gonna get payment for that.
Oh yeah, you will get twisted and
you're
turned
into
a pretzel. Yeah.
Nice. Chris, anything else you want to mention about your story, your experience? Because you have a fight coming up, remind me, or you already have? I can't remember.
Yeah, May 1st, Sparta Sports Entertainment in Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Okay.
Yeah.
It'll be my 3rd MMA fight. I'm stepping up against Elias Egozi out of Elevation MMA.
Okay.
And it's I'm either taking the fight, I'm either ending the fight early, or we're going the distance. I'm not backing down.
We are winning. We are going to win.
We're in this for the win. So
Yes, we're going to win this one. I'm super excited with the fight coming
absolutely.
up.
That's awesome. Well, once that fight happens and you get back here to Morgan, we'll have to sit down with you and be like, okay, that was your third MMA fight. Let's do it. Let's do a recap and see what we learned and what what you're going to take from it.
You know, I encourage anybody who, you know, wants to learn something new, wants to get in shape, I know free time is hard to come by for a lot of people, but find a little bit of free time to come down and check us out. You might find yourself in a new hobby. You might find yourself in love with something you never thought you'd do. I definitely, if you'd asked me what I'd be doing now 5 years ago, this definitely wouldn't be what I would have said. You know, so.
Nice.
You really never know where life is going to take you, and I'm surrounded by great people every day, so I'm very thankful for that.
It's a good gym.
Absolutely.
And I think your point at the beginning when we started talking about what this place is like, when you walked in, people were really welcoming.
Absolutely.
They're not here to drag you down. They're not here to make you feel ashamed or like show you up or whatever. They're legitimately wanting wanting the best for you.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if you don't come back, well, you're not paying any. Like they're not getting your business, and they're also like it's a small community. Fort Morgan's it's like Ernie was talking earlier. He came from Pueblo, where it was 100,000 people.
Yeah.
Morgan's like maybe 20,000, 25,000 in the city, and it's a small community, and community is important around here.
Absolutely.
And being a fight gym over here too, it's you go into other fight gyms in bigger cities.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different of an environment. It's kind of a lot of ego, I guess.
Yeah.
A lot of ego. You come in here, and that's kind of we're coming in here to better ourselves in the sport and in every aspect of your life and health, fitness, everything. And it's kind of a lot different of a feel when you step in here as opposed to another gym. And that's kind of the feel that my boxing coach Chris kind of showed us.
Yeah.
Along with my dad when he started over here, and
Yeah.
my grandfather. It's kind of a traditional thing.
I think the kind of the way to end this, because we've done an amazing almost 50 minutes of this thing,
Sweet.
which is legit, is you don't come to Gladiator to show off. You don't come to Gladiator to be like, you know, I don't know what the word is. You don't come in here to get your ego stroked.
Yes.
You don't come in here to get your, you know, to be told, oh, you're amazing. You come in here to be like, okay, you're probably all right, but here's how we're going to make you better.
Yes.
And every day we're going to do that. And we don't stop. We don't quit. We keep working on getting you better, bigger, faster.
Push you to be a better you. Push
Absolutely.
you to be a better you.
And I think that's when you walk in this building, it not only is permeated in the people, but I've been doing this for a couple months, and just like nobody's been like, oh, you suck. Like those words have never come out of anyone's mouth. And I can't remember his name. The kid I work with on Thursdays, he's like a high school kid. He's like taller than me by a minute.
Cade.
Probably, yeah. He's really timid looking, but dude knows his stuff.
Oh yeah.
And so we were doing stuff, and he's like, and he wasn't mean about it. He was just kind of like, hey, make sure you do this. And I was just like, that was the nicest like instruction I've ever had from a part. Like I haven't had anything bad, but it's just like you actually genuinely care, kid. Like you're a 16-year-old freshman in high school, and you just helped me with something that was. And I was like, yeah, you're right. And it's that spirit I think that I see in a lot of kids. Like Brianna and all like these kids, they'll tell me, be like, hey, you're dropping this. Hey, you need to work on this. Yeah. And even Chris, like your girlfriend, she'll do that to me. She'll be like, hey, work on your feet, man. And she'll like I have a student that I taught in 6th grade who works with her when she comes in and does the class, and your girlfriend is so helpful in being like, hey, here, because she's left-handed like the kid is,
right?
And that's a hard thing for a boxer.
Yeah.
Left-handed boxing, in my
off.
mind, I can't even wrap my head around it. But she's so helpful with being like, okay, well, you don't have to do this, you can do this, and my student's like, really? Oh my gosh, this feels great. And she's like, okay, let's work on that. And so, but that's the rule here. It's not the exception.
Right.
Everyone's in this to win it. And everyone's here to make sure that everyone gets better.
Right. Working together.
And that's the only way this gym's going to be what it is, because if we start thinking we got egos, we are in deep trouble.
Yeah, everybody here just wants everybody else to be the best version of their self possible, whether that's in boxing, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, as a person, as a parent, as a coach.
Every aspect of their lives. I love it.
I agree. All right, well, with that, my name is Aaron.
I'm Chris.
I'm Ernie.
This has been The Gladiator with The Educator. We're still working on the title. I don't really know. And we'll come up with a catchphrase. Thanks, gents, for hanging out. Thanks, Chris, for volunteering and being voluntold to sit down today. Listening to this podcast, it means that you need to check out on Facebook Fort Morgan Gladiator Boxing Gym and like that page and check out all the cool stuff. If you're in Morgan and you think that you're like, man, this sounds like a cool gym, Ernie sounds like a cool dude, it's all true. I vouch for it. I haven't cried yet. I haven't thrown up, which, knock on wood, there actually is a piece of wood in front of me right now. Knock on wood, that's not going to happen. But if you want to come down here, check it out, show up. Kind of just sit on the bench, or maybe step in and say, hey, can I get a free class? I've got a couple of free adult passes I can hand out to you. Ernie, I know, does sometimes offers first person, comes in first time you get a free class. You can check it out. But this is the place to do it, and we want everyone to know that it's a safe place and it's a place where you can be, like Chris said, the best version of yourself that you can be. We will have a new episode. I don't know when, but we'll figure that out. All right, until then, this has been the unnamed podcast that we'll name. Thanks for listening. This has been In the Ring with the Gladiator and the Educator. If you have questions, send the show an email at adelayedteacher@gmail.com. For more information on Gladiator Gym in Fort Morgan, search Fort Morgan Gladiators Boxing on Facebook. We offer kids classes, women's classes, workout classes, professional boxing classes, MMA classes, jiu-jitsu classes, wrestling, and so much more. Thanks for listening to our program. Team Gladiator, always.